Thanks for staying with us. So how do you make your business known and more productive? Now, you speak to some people, especially of the younger generation, you have to use an app, of course. Now, OutSystems has achieved a record revenue on the low-code platform. Some high-profile companies like Toyota and Deloitte use OutSystems' low-code platform as a quick way to develop custom applications. To explain all of this, we have Craig Blanche of OutSystems in the studio. Craig, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm sure people will be listening with all ears, because this is a language that many ordinary people don't understand, but they know they need to learn something if they want to stay ahead. Has mobile and the app hype, as it were, delivered on that promise to business, though?
Yeah, not really. I mean, it's in many respects it's overcomplicated, you know, so business battle to get to grips with what it takes to be successful in the app space. You know, there are a lot of people going around saying that they can develop an app very cheap, very inexpensively, but at the end of the day, an app needs to be a system. So it really needs to be a mobile interface to your whole company. Because if you just put out an app that is just a channel for your consumer to access your company, but you don't have the systems at the back end working with that app, then you kind of break the promise of serving them, you know, conveniently. The kind of Uber experience that you probably are familiar with is about convenience. You know, it's about new features that suddenly appear and you go, wow, you know, now I can see where...
But isn't it ironic then that something that the main aim of an app should be to make your life easier as a business, as well as that of the consumer, make it as easy as possible for them to use so they don't think twice. And yet what you're saying is it's actually very complex behind the scenes, or at the back end, as it were.
It can be complex, and this is why, you know, we recommend the use of a low-code platform, because we can translate the business solution into paradigms that business understand. You know, so we just talk about the process, the logic, the screens, and the data that they need, and an ability to access all of that, synchronize all of that in a way that the consumer can benefit from the solution, or your company internally can benefit from the solution. So it doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be lines of code and gobbledygook. It can be represented in a way that makes sense to business, and that works quite effectively. So just to clear up, I'm just OutSystems South Africa. I'm not the whole of OutSystems. OutSystems is a global company, and the customers that you mentioned are global customers. But locally, we've had really good traction in the insurance industry, for example, you know, with customer onboarding or brokers servicing clients through mobile, as an example. So replacing paper, you know, that type of thing.
So speaking of replacing paper, when you go in to speak to a potential client to try and show them what you could potentially do for them, a lot of them would be boardrooms filled with people of an older generation.
Yeah, they'd have absolutely no clue. But
Indeed.
What they do know...
How do you go about convincing them that an app that you are able to give them on that low-code platform could make their lives better and perhaps improve their bottom line?
What they do know is that the decisions that they're making using tools like Excel are pretty important decisions, and we can show them how to take Excel and turn that into a system and an app quickly and effectively. So that's what we typically do, to show value very quickly, replacing some of those high-risk tools that are being used that are starting to become quite old school.
Now, you're trying to bring people into a more modern era of doing things as a business, and if the app is part of making their lives easier in the office or to speak to their consumer, but you also need to keep ahead of trends as well. What is the newest thing in the app and mobile world that you're keeping an eye on, that you think businesses should keep an eye out for?
Yeah, I think what you've got to watch out for is the extent to which the mobile phone is really becoming a power tool, okay, and where that's going. You know, so increasingly there are more and more sensors on phones. You know, you've seen fingerprints emerge, you've seen NFR, NFC, near field communication emerge. You know, things like Samsung Pay. You now don't need your credit card. So
it's a little scary,
there's this notion of dematerialization, so because you don't need your credit card to make a payment, on you, as long as you've got your phone. And that dematerialization and digitization of products is going to continue, and it's going to accelerate. So, for example, I mean, you think about the Zappers and the Snap Scans, what they've done is they've removed the card, but they've also removed the point-of-sale device, if you think about it.
That's true.
So physically, that's a dematerialization.
That's the paper that you're taking away.
Well, it's and the physical device now as well. So if you think of something like 3D printing, 3D printing has actually been around for about 80 years, but it's only now become prevalent and dominant, because in the first sort of, pick a number, 50, 60 years, it had a very low impact. But actually there's a doubling effect that happens. And as soon as that doubling effect becomes exponential, that's when you see the impact. So that's going to happen more and more with technology. Technologies like 3D printing, like artificial intelligence. And again, back to your question about, where do you see the mobile phone going? Well, actually, you'll be able to talk to it. You'll have artificial intelligence helping you. And you'll talk to computers in general. But
we already are
mobile
talking to
phone,
Siri, aren't we?
Exactly. The mobile phone will become the most predominant way of getting computer services and AI type, robotic type advice and guidance. And I guess eventually, that AirPod that you've got will be your mobile phone. You won't actually have the device.
And you won't need a watch either.
And you won't need the watch.
Craig, it's a bold and a little bit scary world out there.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much for helping us make sense of it. Craig Tablanche of OutSystems, thank you so much for joining us
Thank you.
this evening.